This is the Late Round Podcast with your host, JJ Zachariason.
What's up, everyone? It's JJ Zachariason, the editor-in-chief at FanDuel and at NumberFire.com, and this is episode 518 of the Late Round Podcast, one of the many shows that are part of the FanDuel Podcast Network. Thanks for tuning in. With 5 quarterbacks getting selected in the top 15 in April's draft, there's a good chance that we see a lot of new faces under center this NFL season. Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, they're locks to start. But Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones could all get more playing time than expected as well. We've done plenty of analysis this offseason showing what those quarterbacks are capable of in fantasy football. But considering they're rookie quarterbacks, considering they have zero NFL experience, what about their teammates? What about the pass catchers and running backs on those teams with rookie quarterbacks? Should we maybe shift the way that we view those skill position players because they're playing with rookie quarterbacks? That's the question I'll look to answer on today's show. Should we care if the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that we're drafting are running in an offense with a rookie quarterback? Now, before answering this question, baseball fans, FanDuel has a fun promotion going on called $5 Dinger Tuesdays. All you have to do is place a $25 or more bet on the to hit a home run prop on any Tuesday MLB game. You'll receive a $5 site credit with a $25 max for each home run hit in the game by either team, regardless if your bet wins or loses. So head over to FanDuel on Tuesdays to play the $5 Dinger. Must be 21 years or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund $25. Terms apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-FF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Virginia, Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789, or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. We've had 29 rookie quarterback seasons since 2011 where the quarterback threw the ball 300 or more times. That's the main sample that I'm going to work off of on today's show. Those 29 rookie quarterback seasons. Now, why cut things off at 300 attempts? Well, I figured that would account for a majority of the team's pass attempt volume. And that's the case. Every rookie quarterback on this list threw at least 58% of their team's pass attempts during their rookie season. So quite simply, I wanted to analyze those quarterbacks' teams. I wanted to see if rookie quarterbacks generally made their skill players worse in fantasy football. Or maybe they made them better. I don't know. Let's see what the data says. For exercises like this, I like looking at team level numbers before digging into the individual level. Instead of looking at individual running back performances with rookie quarterbacks, I want to see how a team set of running backs performed. This data set actually provides a really good example as to why. So we've got 29 rookie quarterbacks. If you look at where those rookie quarterbacks' team running backs finished in fantasy points scored, the average was 18.7. And all the data today is in PPR formats. Let me put that another way, though. Andrew Luck is one of the quarterbacks on this list. He was a rookie in 2012. That year, Colts running backs finished with the second lowest fantasy point total in the entire NFL. They ranked 31st. That was tied for the lowest of any running back group in this sample. Some quarterbacks had running back teammates who were better than average as a group. Some were worse. More of them were worse. But the average rank, the average finish for these team running backs when they were on teams with one of these 29 rookie quarterbacks was 18.7. Now, the reason I said this data set provides a great example as to why we should start at the team level is because the RB1 hit rate on these rookie quarterback teams has actually been pretty good. And that's despite the fact that these team running backs have been below average. Of the 29 rookie quarterbacks in our sample, 11 of them had an RB1 top 12 fantasy running back on their team. That's a surprisingly high rate, all things considered. If you figure every running back in the top 12 is from a different team, so 12 teams are being represented, that means 37.5% of starting quarterbacks league-wide are playing with an RB1. In this sample, that number is a little bit higher than the 37.5%, despite the team numbers being below average. This is why I'd rather look at team-level numbers first and foremost. Because on an individual level, it could just be the case that the team is giving one running back a whole lot of volume. Even if that running back isn't all that effective, the sole fact that he's a workhorse is allowing him to be a top 12 running back. So hopefully that makes sense. So running backs seem to do slightly worse with rookie quarterbacks. I wouldn't say it's significantly worse, but it's slightly worse. Now, this shouldn't be surprising, but things are worse than that at wide receiver and tight end. The team wide receiver ranking in fantasy points scored on teams with rookie quarterbacks since 2011 has been 22.3. In other words, team wide receivers with rookie quarterbacks are finishing between 22nd and 23rd in fantasy points scored. That's not great. At tight end, it's been between 20th and 21st. One of the first things that went through my head when I saw this was, well, maybe this is a volume thing. Maybe this is the result of teams not throwing the ball as much because they have rookie quarterbacks, and they don't want those rookie quarterbacks throwing the ball a whole lot. And that's sort of the case. Just 10 of the 29 quarterbacks were on teams that finished the season with more pass attempts than that season's league average. And if you look at where these rookie quarterback-led teams ranked in pass-to-rush ratio, they ranked between 18th and 19th on average. So there's a little volume issue at play here. But I also think that doesn't necessarily matter. If that's how teams manage their rookie quarterbacks, then that's what we're working against when we draft pass catchers on those teams. One question I got from my mailbag episode from last week was from Deli Gayazov 1 that said, "Hi JJ, long live the show. Do you have any statistical data of rookie quarterbacks supporting more than one fantasy relevant wide receiver? Should we be taking it into consideration for Mooney, Ayuk and Debo, Chark and Laviska, and the Jets receivers given their rookie quarterbacks?" And the answer to this is yes, we probably should. Of the 29 quarterbacks in our sample, only 3 of them were able to produce a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. That's a top 12 wide receiver. 9 of them were able to produce a wide receiver 2 or better. Wide receiver 2 being a top 24 wide receiver in PPR formats. Those are pretty low rates. And if you look at the wide receivers who finished in the top 24, none of them had a teammate in the top 24 with them in our sample. None of them had a teammate actually higher than wide receiver 40. The best tandem wide receivers with rookie quarterbacks since 2011 were from Andrew Luck's rookie year, where Reggie Wayne and T.Y. Hilton were wide receiver 10 and wide receiver 40 respectively. Hilton did miss 2 games, but we're looking at a scenario where there was one low-end wide receiver 1 and essentially one wide receiver 3. Now, some of these rookie quarterbacks did produce a usable wide receiver with a usable tight end. But the rate of tight end 1s on these rookie quarterback teams was just 13.8%. That's for a top 12 tight end. So 4 of the 29 quarterbacks helped produce a tight end 1. 2 of those quarterbacks had a usable top 24 wide receiver with a top 12 tight end. But only 2 quarterbacks, Carson Wentz and Marcus Mariota, helped produce a high-end tight end 1, or a top 6 tight end. And unsurprisingly, the highest wide receiver ranking on those 2 teams was wide receiver 44 for the Eagles and Carson Wentz, and wide receiver 54 for Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans. Because a lot of targets were clearly going the tight end's way. Now, I know that was a lot of data, so let me just be clear about what I'm saying here. We really don't usually see more than one pass catcher become very viable in an offense led by a rookie quarterback. And honestly, depending on your definition of viable, it actually just never happens. If a tight end blows up, the wide receivers on a team led by a rookie quarterback, they don't. If a wide receiver ends up doing well, he doesn't have a good tight end piece on his team. And no other wide receiver teammates are also finishing in the top 24 with him. That's what we've seen historically. I'm giving you guys historical data. When I was doing this research, I was talking about it with my friend and fellow analyst Rich Rebar of Sharp Football Analysis. He did a study on rookie quarterbacks a couple of years ago, so I was curious if the raw data that I found looked similar to his. His study was a little bit different, but it stretched back all the way to 2001. And what he found was similar. Last year, Keenan Allen, according to his data, he became just the 5th wide receiver 1 in points per game on a team with a rookie quarterback who made 8 or more starts. That data set included 57 quarterbacks. Rich also found something that was really vital to all of this as well. He looked at wide receivers who played with rookie quarterbacks over this time frame, so since 2001, and he looked to see which ones ranked high the previous season in points per game. And then he compared that to how that player did the following year. Now, why is that important? Because it's showing us that a player was good, and then it'll show us the impact that a rookie quarterback had on that player the following year. He found that 15 wide receivers ranked as the wide receiver 15 or better one year, then got a rookie quarterback the following season. And of those 15 wide receivers, of those 15 good wide receiver seasons, only 2 of them, so 13% of them, increased their points per game the following year. And the majority of them saw their points per game rate decrease pretty significantly with that rookie quarterback. I think all of this is telling, and it's a little bit scary if you're drafting some of these pass catchers in the early parts of your fantasy draft. For running backs, I don't think I'd change anything. One thing to keep in mind is the impact that mobile quarterbacks can have on running backs, which is something I talked through on episode 510. I think that's far more important to this group of rookie quarterbacks than the study that I'm talking about today. But for the pass catchers, I do think there's some concern. The two players who stand out as worrisome based on this data are George Kittle and Allen Robinson. No one from the Jets is being drafted early, no pass catchers from Jacksonville have significant ADPs, and no one's drafting New England wide receivers high at all. It's Chicago and San Francisco that we should be worried about the most. And Chicago's top player is Allen Robinson, where San Francisco's is George Kittle. If you're still into those two players, which I'd argue is fine because they're both really good football players, but if you're really into them, then this data suggests that you at least should not be stacking. You shouldn't be drafting their teammates. We know that rookie quarterbacks don't usually generate more than one reliable fantasy pass catcher. So if you take Allen Robinson or George Kittle early, you should be working under the assumption that Darnell Mooney or Cole Kmet or Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, that those players aren't going to have significant seasons. If you believe that those players will have significantly good seasons, then you should lower the expectation for George Kittle and Allen Robinson. That's just what this data shows. And on top of that, we've got situations with Trey Lance and Justin Fields where they're mobile quarterbacks. And as I mentioned on the episode from a couple of weeks ago, that also doesn't bode well for those teams' pass catchers. Now, maybe Trey Lance doesn't see the field until like week 14. Maybe Justin Fields crushes it and at least allows Allen Robinson to maintain elite status. I could absolutely see that happening. But do keep in mind that when you're drafting your fantasy teams, if you select a pass catcher from one of these offenses with a rookie quarterback, you're making the assumption, because of how we've seen things go down with rookie quarterbacks, that that player's teammates aren't going to live up to expectation. That is, of course, if the player that you're drafting is living up to expectation. And you also are playing against probability a bit for that individual player, because historically, pass catchers on teams with rookie quarterbacks have been underwhelming. That's going to do it for today's show, though. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you got subscribed to the Late Round Podcast, make sure you are by searching for it pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter @LateRoundQB. Thanks, everyone. I'll have an early mailbag episode for you this week. I'll talk to you then.